are live from AmFest here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace with Todd and Aaron McIntyre. Day 2 of America Fest here in Phoenix at the Convention Center. Brought to you by our friends over at Preborn. If you're looking at giving the greatest gift this Christmas, how about the gift of life? You can do it for as little as $28. You can fund an ultrasound that doubles a child's chance at life today, and I would argue doubles mom's chance at eternal life perhaps as well, because we've all lived through the last few years of election cycles. What happens when a critical mass of women commit the grievous sin of murder against their own offspring, are unrepentant about it, do not seek forgiveness in Christ for it, and instead harden their hearts and sear their consciences and decide they're going to vote for the very people that are going to destroy America because it'll affirm them in their unrepentant sin. So there are cosmic forces at stake in this battle. Preborn understands that. And what they also understand, though, is when that mom steps out of the dark and into the light and chooses life, that's not the end of the story. That's the beginning. That's the beginning of the story. And they're there for up to 2 years after this baby is born to support this new family. Everything they do, intimate care like counseling, practical care like car seats and diapers, all of it is free of charge, but we all know that none of it is free. And that's where you and I come in. For as little as $28, you can fund that ultrasound today. Maybe you can give more. They have matching gifts this time of year. Tax-deductible gift to the 5-star charity known as Preborn, and make that donation today. So many of you have been generous. Let's keep it going at preborn.com/Steve. Again, that's preborn.com/Steve. And then if you're looking for a last-minute Christmas gift, but you're thinking it's too late to get something shipped, you're right. It's too late to get something shipped. But with Blaze TV digital cards, you don't have to do that right now. You can get digital gift cards from Blaze TV, $20 off your annual subscription to Blaze TV with the code DACE20. You can gift this to the discerning patriot in your life that you love at giftblazetv.com. That's giftblazetv.com, and it's $20 off the annual subscription today with the code DACE20. So Todd and Aaron McIntyre, Whirlwind Day yesterday. It's going to be maybe even busier Whirlwind Day today. I'm speaking twice today. One of them I did already. We had a huge, full breakout session at 8 a.m., bright and early this morning. We were beginning the early steps, Todd, of the Protestant Council of Nicaea that you've been calling for on the show all year. This was about how to unite the church around core doctrine and what that core doctrine ought to be and where it comes from. And so that was one part of what I'm doing today. And we had a fantastic panel there with the folks from Summit Ministries. Met Dr. Joe Bottoms today. My good friend Lucas Miles from TPUSA Faith was there as well. And then later this afternoon, I'm going to take the main stage, and I'm going to have my time to talk here during Turning Point USA and America Fest. And my intent is to honor Charlie and to do what I can to make sure that we come out of this the most inspired, unified, and with shared mission and purpose as we can out of this weekend, as we felt after Charlie's martyrdom and after his memorial. So looking forward to that. But the first time you guys have ever been here. Before we get to what we're going to do today, we're going to have a special 2-hour Feedback Friday. We may have a special guest. I'm going to see if I can corral Billboard Chris. I saw him around here yesterday. I'm going to see if I can get, you want to know the definition of a man's man. Just put that dude's picture up, right? See if I can corral him and convince him to come join us here for the final segment of the show. But just kind of, walk through this event and put the audience through you guys' eyes and your hands and feet and what it's been like here, your first 24 hours being here at America Fest.
I mean, the kindness of the people that stop you is it's the same as when we are out on location in other places. That's an addiction on my end, because we're 3 guys in a room, and we do get emails and we engage on social media, but ultimately this is about the flesh and blood in front of you, and the fact that people come up and are so kind and want to make sure they let you know that you're a part of their life in a regular way, and they say thank you. I make sure I try to say thank you more times right back to them, because that's the stuff that this is about. You talk all the time, it's better than going down a mine shaft with a flashlight.
Yeah.
We have a fun gig, but if I didn't know I was somehow making a difference. At the end of the day, then it's just a paycheck and paying bills. And all these kinds of people here they want in their own way, how can I make a difference? They know the hour is late. And here, the energy of this place, memorializing Charlie again for a second time. Christmas is here. New Year's resolutions. If not now, when? I hope everybody has a sense of mission that they've never had before in their life when they get on the plane and go back to that place, because this isn't the event. Everything that happens after this event is the event. Amen. That's the game called life, and we've got work to do.
You've traveled with me some.
Yes.
I have a routine, and I'm pretty rigid about that routine, and it's what allows me to. It's what allows me to get done all the things I get asked to do, and then the stuff that I actually have to do, right? And of course, you guys experienced it this week. The American Airlines, I shouldn't say that as a brand. The United States airline travel industry is not very accommodating of rigid schedules, and you guys experienced it just this week, right?
Still jet lagged, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. And so, why do I keep risking the preciousness of my schedule to come out and do as many of these events around the country as my schedule will permit? And yeah, of course, I get compensated for them, but I got offers to be compensated for years when I had young kids at home and didn't do it because I needed to be at home. The reason I do it now is everything you just said. This is where now, all of you that come up to say hello and ask for pictures, I get a bigger charge out of it than you guys do, I promise you, because it could just be the three of us like the smell of our own farts, if we're being honest. We don't know, right? When we get out to events like this and get to see and meet the people, that's when we know we're making a difference and we're doing more than just bloviating on a podcast. So completely concur with everything you just said. Aaron, what about you?
Energy level is off the charts here, and I didn't expect anything different, and it's been a blast just to be here and experience this. But I echo pretty much everything that Todd said, and especially what you just said about getting a bigger charge out of this, because every now and then on Feedback Friday, and we're going to be doing a special edition long-form Feedback Friday today, you'll have a testimony of somebody who listened or watched our show and did the thing, whatever that thing is, whether that's doing their part to fix what ails their family, doing their part to fix what ails their community or their schools, and they credit our show, and that's a charge for us, but not in a prideful sense. It's what God's doing through us, and a lot of times, I'll just speak for myself, in spite of us as well, but getting to see those people in person. And I've gotten to meet so many people, and I tried to remember every single person's name yesterday that I ran into, and I just couldn't, so I'm not even going to try anymore. It was that kind of thing, just on steroids. Some of those letters that you read on Feedback Friday, they'll keep us going for another few weeks, because the nuts and bolts of the vocation part of this job, it does sometimes, it feels like feeding the beast. You got another show, you got more content to produce. It feels like feeding the beast, but then you get those notes to remind you really are making a difference, and then it just takes it up to a whole nother level when you're able to meet people in person. So it's been a blast so far, just 24 hours in.
Amen to that too. I had a gal stop me after the breakout session this morning. Hey, I ran for school board because you guys' show, and I lost, but I'm going to do it again. I'm going to run again.
That's
awesome.
And I lost, but I'm going to do it again. Right. See, that's the thing. It's not about ego. It's about insecurity. It's about an understanding that I am a soldier in a battle, and they're going to give up before I do. I love that.
Right on. And so that's what you just said, Aaron. When we get out here to events like this and see and meet the people, that's when we're reminded it's not just another job.
Yep.
Is right there. All right. Maybe you guys, now one job I do have to do is some branding, because we're very excited about our next book release for 2026. We're going to complete the trilogy of children's books honoring America's Christian heritage. We had a national bestseller with Why Thanksgiving in 2022. We had a successful launch with Why Easter in 2024. And then next year, for America's 250th anniversary, 250th birthday, we're coming out with Why Independence Day. It's going to release Memorial Day next year. And so you can see the cover right here on the set for Why Independence Day. Pre-sales for this have already begun at Amazon. And I love the subtitle that we selected for this one. And we broke the rule. All right, there's like a conservative book rule. You must have long subtitles. And the first two Y books did have long subtitles. This one though is short and to the point, pithy, as Bill O'Reilly used to say. All right, America is great because God is good, and we're going to walk through for children and for adults too. But we're going to walk through in this book in about 25 pages the illustrated providential history of this greatest country God's ever permitted this side of eternity, the United States of America. And kids are going to learn what the real roots of the ideas that made America come from, what it means to be an American, and why this is worth fighting for, preserving, why it is the last best hope for humanity between now and the return of Christ. So why Independence Day? America is great because God is good, coming your way next year, releasing Memorial Day weekend. Pre-sales are available right now at Amazon.com, and you can see the first cover reveal right here on the set. All right, you guys ready for some Feedback Friday?
You bet.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get started. It's brought to you by our friends over at SelectQuote. For over 40 years, they've been one of the most trusted brokers in insurance, helping more than 2 million Americans secure over $700 billion in coverage. And their mission is simple: to find the right insurance policy for your unique needs. They shop so that you can save. Unlike other one-size-fits-all life insurance companies, SelectQuote's licensed agents, they work for you. And in as little as 15 minutes, they'll compare policies from top-rated carriers to find you the best fit for your health and your budget. And they work for you for free. And they can also help you if you've got pre-existing conditions as well. All right, so SelectQuote has partners with policies designed just for that. Get the right life insurance for you for less and save more than 50% at SelectQuote.com/Steve. Again, that's SelectQuote.com/Steve. All right, let's kick this thing off with a banger. And it is the perfect, when I selected these, I had no idea that we were going to do the show yesterday. We ended up doing. And the way this is now going to work out, that this is the first one we're going to tackle, because this is the other side of the coin right here of yesterday's conversation, all right? And we're all girl dads up here now, okay? Thomas Henshaw in Whittier, California asks, do you think a large number of women will discard their liberal politics to pursue a guy? Because I'm not entirely sure we're going to be able to perpetuate the species in the next generation if this does not happen. All right? And I think that this is absolutely one of the questions of the hour. Okay? I mean, there's a few things that we are looking at on our side right now. Okay? And there's, I would say, 3 inflection points of discussion and debate and some disagreement on ours, or maybe even disillusionment on our side right now. And in no uncertain order, I would say, what is going on with Tucker Carlson? That has created some contention for sure. We've talked about it on our show. And I've just kind of come to the conclusion that in reaction to generational failure by neocons, Tucker has, in response, evolved into or we're watching him evolve into kind of his generation's Ron Paul. I mean, if you go back and look at a lot of the stuff Tucker is saying right now and compare it to what Ron Paul said in the 80s and 90s, it's very, very similar, right? Or he is deconstructing his ideology, and we don't know where he's going to end up. And I think we'll get more answers to that. I'm not sure even Tucker maybe knows. We'll get more answers to that in the new year. That's one, okay? How to reach the young men. That's another one. Charlie was very focused on that. We focused an entire show on that yesterday. And our position on our show is that there's going to be and needs to be a revolution with the young men. The question is, which revolution is it going to be? Are they going to do the French Revolution or the American Revolution? And that was yesterday's show, right? Now, to me, this is the third inflection point right here. Because even though we don't yet know what they're based in or based on, the young men are becoming way more based. That is not debatable. All right. And meanwhile, I've got this bifurcation where the young women are going off more and more to the Kamala Harris tip, right? And this has to come to a head to some degree. Now, I will say this: if you are a conservative young woman entering into marriage years, it is a good time to be you. All right. I mean, the market is very much in your favor. All right. I mean, welcome to the debutante ball. The card is full. Okay.
It's like Donkey and Shrek. Pick me.
Yes.
Pick me.
Yes. All right. I mean, you are absolutely going to be able to Scarlett O'Hara this thing for sure. Play this out if you want for a little bit. All right. And maybe we need to make dowries great again. all right? Because you are part of a crop that is anemic at the current moment, all right? Outside of events like this, of course, all right? But countrywide, yeah, you're unicorns. So at some point, though, right, craven instinct takes over, the desire to perpetuate the species, the attraction to the other side, the need for sexual release, all those, the need for companionship, all these things eventually have to come to a head somewhere, right? Right? And that's kind of what Thomas Henshaw is asking about here. Someone is going to have to change, right? So are we going to see more of that TikTok that went around, not this year, but the year before, with the young feminist gal, and then she went on a date with an actual real man, and it rocked her world, right? Okay, and it changed her entire view of masculinity and chivalry. Remember that clip that went around a couple of years ago?
Course.
So there's either going to be more stories like this, or we're going to see young men say, "Dude, I've got to deconstruct, man," or "I'm going to be an incel, and I don't want to be one." I mean, there's going to be this is coming to a head somewhere in the next few years. What are you guys' thoughts on where this is going to go?
I think you were yesterday on one of the side hustles that you did here with Michael Knowles. You were talking about government involvement to fix its mistakes. And
government's going to have to match couples. Is that what you're going to say?
Oh, well, I think there's going to need to be incentivizations.
Conservative men go into Grok. We found you a conservative woman.
Hey.
The problem is she's in Missoula, Montana, and you are in Bangor, Maine. Okay? Yes.
See, I just don't think the mere biological cliff we are falling off, that realization is enough, because that's baked into the cake. That was the point all along.
Right.
That is the dark success story of all this. The self-loathing that is implied in the whole track of what they intended, if they're being honest, feminism to be.
Right.
They resent the fact that one of the things that's just part of the deal is bearing children. And again, you started this off, Steve, by talking about we're all fathers of daughters. I am unapologetically proud of all that my daughters are doing and have done. Athletics, my oldest just actually graduated early from college with the highest honors in political science. But the minute any of that, kicking a soccer ball, whatever, gets in the way of them depreciating their sense of value under God as women, I would hit Control-Alt-Delete on all that. We're not doing that, we're not doing that, we're not doing that. Because your highest gift, and it is a gift, is to do that. And it's been so denigrated by this modern world. That is part of the point, it's part of the plan.
Right on.
So they're not going to just say, oh, yeah, I guess it's going to be tough to have kids. No, that was the design. And I think there may ultimately need to be incentivizations that are kind of like a steroid that wake enough of the culture up to keep things going while we have what we talk about on the show all the time, Steve, the awakening.
All right, so let you got my synapses firing on this. How about something like this? In the Mosaic Law, there was a clause in the Mosaic Law that men were to stay home for a period of time. And some translations say pleasure their wives. Other it's really an allusion to joining in intimacy, taking the true first steps to the establishment of a marriage and a family, right? Okay? And there was a period of time where men would do that before they'd be called off to war, even in a time of war. Because what's the point of fighting a war if we're going to lose that fundamental fact of we're fighting a war ostensibly to preserve our way of life, right?
Yes.
Okay? And so if that's why we're doing it, in God's kingdom, you're fighting a war to preserve your way of life. That's a just war, right? Okay? Or defend it. And so if you're fighting that war for that reason, why would you do that and then leave the family unit behind? That is the first molecule of passing your legacy on.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you get married and have kids, we call it if you get married and in the first 2 years of a honeymoon, or the newlywed era, in the first 2 years, you have a newlywed tax abatement. You just no income taxes for you for 2 years to the federal government if you have children.
You're tracking
that kind of stuff. Is that what you're thinking?
The kind of thing we're going to need to workshop because the three of us don't need that. A lot of other people that come to this place don't need that. They live to do that. But when biology and other cultures across the entire world are dealing this isn't a uniquely American problem. But I think it's a mass unit thing. It's triage. It's meatball surgery. We're just trying to keep the thing alive long enough for the greater
exactly
the
all
Holy
we're really
Spirit
trying to do at this
take
point,
effect.
all political civic action at this point is we're trying to extend the end game to give us time for revival. That's really what we're trying to do. So Aaron, Todd and I are closer to having girls get married, and I did marry one of mine already than you are. But you're way closer to dating a girl than Todd and I have been. All right, so you've been in this market more recently than we have. What would you say to Thomas Inshaw's question?
So that is probably the most relevant question you could ask at this juncture, especially in the aftermath of yesterday's conversation. And it's not just, I totally admit it's not just as easy. Go out there and get married. That's not as easy, at least for the young men, as it was for your generation or even for my generation, the millennial generation. There's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is that there might just be a demographic cliff here, and you hear Elon Musk talking about this over and over and over again, not just in the political sphere, but overall.
And my man is doing everything he can to do something about it, brother.
Yeah, and
in a Sean Kempian kind of way, but go ahead, yes.
The bad news is you look at countries like Japan, South Korea, they have faced these same sorts of demographic cliffs that we're about to maybe go over. They have done all of these technocratic policies, trying to actually animate, trying to just get people in the frame of mind of, hey, this is going to have a tax benefit for you. This is going to have some economic benefit for you if you have more children. They're trying to encourage this, and it really hasn't had much of a difference. So I don't think that there's any sort of technocratic solution that you can put in place here. You can do a lot of good things. The child tax credit is a great thing that our country has done and other countries have done as well. But I think what Elon Musk I'm starting to see is coming around to, it's totally a cultural thing, which is exactly what we're talking about here. So I used to think that it was just as simple as, hey, that what you encourage, you get more of, especially when it comes to a legislative or policy perspective. And that is largely true. But in this instance, that's not going to cut it. So that's kind of the bad news. The good news, however, is if you look basically any study of those who are already married, those who are more conservative, or those who identify as Christians, they are still, at the very least, reproducing at a replacement rate. So if you put this together, either somebody in this generation is going to have to change, or a lot of people are going to have to change. Either the young men are going to have to go a lot more left, or the young women are going to have to go a lot more right, or there's just going to be a demographic cliff here. And this is going
or you're going to need to learn Arabic.
Or you're going to need to learn Arabic,
yep.
And there's going to be an entire generation that's just missing. The good news, though, is that if you do manage to get married, in the long run, if you can actually perpetuate that and instill your own offspring and your progeny with the same values that you have, then eventually, in a long, 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 long time, that's going to net some benefits. But this is a terrible situation, obviously, that we find ourselves in, and it's all politically and ideologically driven, and that's the worst part of this, because that's the toughest thing to break. There's no technocratic solution that can break through that. That's all spiritual, all cultural.
Amen. And per a point you made yesterday, Steve, that's really important. The economic incentivization early on in a marriage, people will bite on that in a way that you're tricking them in a really good way, because you told us yesterday, Steve, and Aaron reemphasized, you don't truly understand until you get married and have kids how it changes you. A door is open for the Holy Spirit. And so early on, a guy who's thinking very carnally, I'll take the cash, but he gets married and he has a kid, and all of a sudden that door is open for the Holy Spirit to get in.
Listen, my wife is here. We tell this story all the time. All right? We just thought we were pagans. This was 30 years ago, dial-up AOL, chat rooms, 28.8 baud modems, all right? It was literally, the thing could have been literally called Pagans in Heat, America Online, chat room, all right? And we were just intending for a weekend hookup. We didn't even know what the word carnal meant, all right? We just were acting on craven, lustful, glandular, early 20s pagan, instinct. 30 years later, I've owned multiple minivans. We've homeschooled 3 children. Like that's what you're talking about.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. And if the Lord had said, hey, you need to see what I've got planned for y'all on the other side, I'd have been like, I'm going to look up another chick right here on the AOL chat room. I'd have ran. All right. And now I ended up with, the best life I could have possibly understood, chosen for myself. And because I didn't understand that this was going to end up being the best life, but it ended up being that.
Jamie Bambrick, pastor from, I believe it's Ireland, right?
Yeah, him and I did an event together in Ohio earlier this year.
He was on our show earlier this year as well. He had a great thread back in July of this year detailing how the country of Georgia, not the state of Georgia, but the country of Georgia, back in 2005, had a similar birth rate to what we're heading for, what we have right now, 1.4 baby, or 1.4 birth rate, I believe. Babies for each woman, 1.4. In less than 10 years later, from 2005 to 2014, they raised that rate by 50% to 2.1. And he detailed how they did this is the head of the Georgian Orthodox Church basically promised each woman who had a child, I will become your godfather of that child. There were some other, the technocratic benefits that I was talking about as well, child tax credits. Mm-hmm. But what that accomplished was it bestowed status. Upon becoming a mother.
Motherhood became significant again.
Now, Georgia, a little bit different country than ours,
a
little bit different culture than ours, but maybe there's something there that could be, no pun intended, but reproducible elsewhere.
What I like is we're workshopping this in real time, and we're trying to come up with something original and unique, other than let the market decide, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. All right, we did all that. Actually, we skipped all that, didn't do that. The people that said that for a generation didn't really do it. And so now we're left with these deep hole messes, and so we're going to have to get creative on how to dig out of these things. All right. If you're here at our event, we're in the exhibitor hall at America Fest. You know who else is in the exhibitor hall? Because when I do these events around the country, they're always here. Our friends at Patriot Mobile. And so when we tell you about them reinvesting the profits that you reward them with prophetically back into the same values that you're fighting to conserve and pass on, this is living proof. I mean, Amy and I stopped over at their booth yesterday. It was jam-packed. Got some really cool patriotic red, white, and blue light-up glasses for Autumn. She's going to lose her mind. Mom and Dad are going to lose their minds, but for a different reason when we bring these home to Iowa with us. All right, so Patriot Mobile, they've been our family's mobile service provider for going on 6 years now. Final straw for us. We talked about them for years on the show. I was just too lazy to switch. And then the final straw is we got a mass text from T-Mobile one day during the scamdemic saying, hey, we're going to start editing text on our network for, quote, misinformation. Well, that was only our life's work during that period of time. So I'm like, well, we're out. And I finally called the folks at Patriot Mobile and said, hey, I'm not just going to be a spokesperson now, I'm going to be a customer. Our families never look back, man. They have been fantastic. They've got a U.S.-based customer service team, which means you can understand the words coming out of their mouth. And they make switching as easy as possible. Keep your phone, upgrade your phone, switch your number, keep your number. And right now they've got their red, white, and blue Friday promotion going on right now. It's their once-a-year chance to get a free smartphone by switching to America's only Christian conservative mobile phone provider. You can do that right now at patriotmobile.com/Steve using the promo code Steve. Promo code Steve at patriotmobile.com/Steve. And again, this is your once-a-year opportunity to get a free smartphone by making the switch today at patriotmobile.com/Steve using the promo code Steve. All right, guys, when we come back, I've got a note that is going to blow your minds. Blow your minds. The interview we did, what was it? Was it just last week or the week before? With Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett on the whole UAP UFO stuff.
Oh boy, yeah. All
right.
Oh dear.
I got a few emails on this one, but this email in particular is going to blow your minds. All right, I cannot wait. I can't wait. I cannot. One of the reasons I wanted to do this segment was just to make sure before the end of the year I could read this on the air and see the looks on both of your faces when this got read. Okay,
our minds are both blown, but they're blown in different ways about this kind of topic.
I promise you, it's not a troll. And I promise you he's not here to evangelize the aliens, okay? This is an angle we have never even considered in response to this interview, all right? And I want to get you guys' thoughts on it and the audience as well. When we come back here in a moment, stay tuned here, live from America Fest on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here live inside the Phoenix Convention Center at America Fest 2025 here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace alongside Todd and Aaron McIntyre. All right, guys, I have been waiting all week to share this note with you guys.
I'm worried.
And there's a reason why I didn't lead off with it, because it could have completely derailed the entire show. All right?
Okay.
That's not going to
So there's
now.
that.
All right. All right, so remember about a week and a half ago, we did the interview with Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee. And the reason why we went after Tim is because he's been him and Anna Paulina Luna have kind of been the leading Republican faces, along with Marco Rubio, on the whole UAP, UFO, non-human intelligence front the last few years. Now, Rubio has since come out. There's a documentary that is the best-selling new movie on Amazon right now called The Age of Disclosure. And Congressman Burchett is featured prominently in it. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is featured prominently in it. Now, Rubio has since come out, since the release of that film, and said he thinks that a lot of the people involved in it are crackpots. You guys see that?
Yep.
Kind of disavowed it a little bit, okay? But he did still say, hey, we do still have a disturbing amount of unexplained aerial phenomena over key strategic, particularly nuclear sites over the last few years that we still don't have an answer for. He did say that, though, okay? So we brought Congressman Burchett on, and I did get all the questions I've been wanting to ask. He admitted that there are things he could say that would probably better explain what's going on, but the Trump administration will not allow him to disclose it, is what he said. I asked him, because, our official show position is, come back to us. We always get compelling images of these craft, but never of who's piloting them. So show us the pilots, right? So we did ask him that question. And I asked him, hey, in the stuff you cannot comment on, have you ever seen compelling biologics yourself, right? Remains of extraterrestrials or non-human intelligence? The answer was no. But that he's heard compelling testimony of people who say that they have, but that he himself, other than their testimony, he's been shown or given nothing else. He's like the current chairman of the select committee that's looking into this, right? Well, do you guys remember what happened about 10 minutes into this interview?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, one of our listeners just came up and reminded us the deep state got us.
Right. So his connection went dark.
Yep.
And then it mysteriously came on about the final few minutes of the interview, right? All right. I want you to listen to this. As a former intelligence official, it stood out to me that the internet broke up and went down exactly at the point in which he began to reveal what could be considered classified information. I do not view that as a likely coincidence. Furthermore, his return to the show had all the hallmarks of, quote, returning to his circle, which is a moniker for, quote, clamming up that is used in the intelligence community. Here's why. When you get read on to subcompartmented information, or SCI, you are clearly briefed that as far as anyone outside that small room and on that small list of read-ons, the program information does not exist. You know nothing about the subject. You never talked about the subject. You don't confirm or deny, yes, that old trope, about the subject. As far as a person who's a read-on is concerned, it no longer exists and you were never interested. The only existence outside that room that is ever acknowledged is a non-descriptive code name. When you asked his personal opinion and he replied in a confirmatory/positive position, he was immediately in breach of that. As a lowly guy, that would be the immediate end of my clearance, and I would be imprisoned if I did what he did on your show. As a congressman, the best they can do, therefore, is just to cut the feed. Talking about publicly known stuff won't get you in trouble. It's when you ask the direct question based on his knowledge about alien life and biologics, and was a direct yes or no. That was it right there. It is highly telling that he couldn't come back on for a while, but when he did, he went back to his circle. Going to your circle in interrogation parlance is returning to safe topics. So he came back on, and then he immediately told you he had to get going soon. That's a classic response. And then went back to talking about photographs, and almost every answer was now negative or generalized or an I don't know response. As a guess, educated or not, he got a phone call right after that line was dead. He took a warning instruction and then was allowed back on. He spoke about this toward the end in a defeated tone. That did happen. It is overly said he had been approached. He even overtly said he had been approached in a clandestine manner using deep throat references from the past. He did mention that in the interview too. Okay? I think that was telling to reference his prior approaches. His tonality changed significantly. He had long pauses and said, in paraphrase, well, we have all heard it all before now, and until something new comes up, we might as well stop talking about it. That was not the tone that he had at the beginning. He confirmed the existence of classified materials that were held at a very high security level. He further confirmed that there was a relevant, pertinent information of some level of magnitude and then gave his opinion on it. Those 3 actions and disclosures would be enough for security violations for normal people. My motivation in this is just truthfulness. I don't personally have a dog in the fight. I hope this was helpful in some small way. Thank you, Nathan Smith. Is that his name, by the way? All right, guys. The floor is yours.
Shoot, Aaron. Let's see what you got.
He also did joke about how he's not suicidal.
Yes. Now, was there a different person in the room when he came back than there was at the start?
Then I'll speak, because that's what I was going to bring up.
There was a person in the background
Yes.
to start the interview.
Or at least that the person was sitting closer to him than he was at the start of the interview when he came back, for sure.
Who is that?
For sure. Either that was, I can't remember, that was either a different person or that person was sitting closer to Congressman Burchett than he was when we came back.
Yeah.
It was the same person. And, this topic...
Just kind of looking over his shoulder, acting like he... How many congressmen and senators have we interviewed over the years?
Nobody.
Has there ever been anybody over the guy's shoulder just kind of just sitting there?
Or when you're being interviewed by somebody else, am I in the background going, hey, everybody? No, that's... That was very odd, and I hate to be X-Files conspiratorial about this topic.
Fire it up, cigarette smoking man. Let's hear it.
Because if we've reached the point where this guy is true, I guarantee you most of the stuff we're talking about for 3.5 days here is not going to be enough, quite frankly, because we are a psyop is upon us that is beyond what I believe to even already be true. So that guy sitting back there was odd. It was weird. It even got my spidey senses up. So this is the first time that you have read something on this, quite frankly, that you were right this time. You did blow my mind a bit.
I told you.
2.5 years ago, I think it was about 2.5 years ago, when we started to talk about this, both Todd and I would kind of have the same reaction when you would put something about UAPs, UFOs,
hey, watch this.
Into the rundown.
You guys are texting your resignation letters?
Yeah, we would basically... There was one time when we pretended to just leave, I think.
Yes.
Our reaction was basically Michael Scott when Toby comes back for the first, no, God, please, no, let's not talk about this. So you don't know this, Steve. I was about to tell you during the break, but this is just serendipitous. I now, 2.5 years later, going into this new year, feel at the very least more comfortable addressing these things on a regular basis. Now hearing this, I feel more imperative that we discuss this on a regular basis. And this was mostly crystallized for me with our interview with Colin Samuel. He's the ex-pagan or pagan.
Great evergreen, yeah.
Now Presbyterian minister who is very well versed in paganism.
He texted me after that interview and said, so the CIA got to that guy, huh, and shut it off? He had no idea. Yeah, he had no idea I got that interview or that email. He had no idea. He listened to the interview, texted me right after and said, so the CIA shut that guy off, right? And I'm like, are you kidding me? That is what he told me. Yeah.
So Colin Samuel, ex-pagan, now Presbyterian minister, basically laid out how UFO, UAP, the phenomenon surrounding it, at least with the psionics and things of that nature, but basically the overall phenomenon has all the hallmarks of a typical pagan religion.
Yeah.
And that's when it crystallized for me what this really is.
Psionics is just occultic summoning.
Yes.
Demonic rites of old. That's all it is.
And it's pretty clear. I think it was 2019 back in the New York Times in 2019. I think that was the year when they first published the disclosure about how these pilots saw an unidentified flying object or UAP, the aerial phenomenon. It's now 6 years later, going on 7 years later. This thing is not going away. It's a psyop of some stripe. I just don't know which or from where, but it is definitely a psyop. I do believe overall, probably the betting favorite, 75%, it is a demonic deception. And so it needs to be addressed as much as it comes up. Did you see the trailer yet for Steven Spielberg?
I have not had a chance, but you're like the 30th person to tell me I have to watch this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, what have we been saying? Where are the pilots
Yes.
of these crafts? Where
Yeah.
are the pilots? In this trailer, where are the voices coming from? Where are the aliens? And it is strongly implied in this trailer, you're not going to see them.
Here's what I'm worried about. You know I don't believe in aliens on any. I actually think it's unbiblical. But I do believe what I said back in 2019 and regarding transgenderism. I said once we believe in this, we'll believe in anything. And then COVID came along. This kind of thing is the next step. A people ripe for believing the biggest level of nonsense because they desperately want to. They are so spiritually starved and hollowed out that literally antichrist level forces are going to enter into the gap with with things that would seem to defy possibility. But that's the whole point. The lie is the point.
And having said, if I can interject one more thing as well, I want to reset something that I said one time that we had this conversation.
This is the first time you guys want to talk about this more than me, so by golly, go ahead. Yes.
Look what you did to me. I resent the
Told you it
hell
was going
out
to blow
of you.
your mind, yes.
Paraphrasing C.S. Lewis, there's two types of people. One who are too obsessed with the supernatural, and one who is, not
The magician and the materialist.
Yeah, exactly, the magician and the materials. I still think we need to carry that in as much as we possibly can, especially because this is, I believe, a demonic deception. Nevertheless, I do think it is becoming there's an attempt to mainstream this in a way that needs to be addressed.
You can tell it's a demonic deception in that the questions never end, but the answers never arrive.
Correct.
That's just, again, Christianity is the ceaseless seeking of answers. Demonic occultic Gnosticism is the endless asking of questions, as if truth is elusive and cannot be found or only acquired by the special few that have the right connections, right? When, on the other hand, as we commemorate this time of year at Christmas, truth wants to be known, wants the world to know it. It means it has to take on an earthly vessel form. Truth wants to be known. All right, let's get to this topic, because this is a hot button issue right now from Joseph. He says, I've come to an important realization, I think, that true criticism of Israel is in fact the love and honor of Israel, regardless of one's views as to whether or not the current Israeli state is in fact the Israelites written about in the Bible. God himself decided to enshrine the criticism of his chosen people in the form of its prophets within the word of its God. Real criticism comes from a state of desire to correct that which you are criticizing. Through true criticism, you want those who you have criticized to become a better version of themselves. It is actually a type of love and, yes, honor. For the most part, I agree with this. All right, and I think on is it still a prophetic nation or not? And of course, this took center stage last night because of what happened with Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson. And on purpose, I've not addressed this on X. I will address it briefly right here. I was just very disappointed in what both of them did. There is an occasion, this isn't about you. And the debates that you two represent, the sides you represent, are very important, okay? But this is a little bit like when you get together for Thanksgiving and you're going around the table, what are you thankful for? And there are, you have two family members there, and the disagreement they're having is very important. And various parts of the family are on different wings of that debate. But in the midst of that moment, which the occasion is bigger and not about you, is when they decide they're going to use that. Now that they've got everybody's attention, they're going to decide to use this as their platform for grinding that axe. And it just takes the energy out of everything, the rest of the occasion, right? This is about Charlie. And this is about Charlie's legacy. And this is about an extraordinary man. I've met a lot of men, most of them boys who can shave, over the last 20 years in this business. I've met very few great men, and Charlie was one of them. And his legacy deserved better, and maybe could we have one America Fest where it's about the guy who actually started and gave his life for it, maybe once. Because I'm confident these arguments are going to be there, a week from now, you think? A month from now, 6 months from now? We're going to probably still be having these arguments. And I was just very disappointed that last night had to be the occasion for both sides to hijack the stage to air that argument, rather than honoring and taking advantage of the moment to try to keep us unified in purpose and mission, which was one of Charlie's primary missions, and what I will talk about when I get up to speak there later this afternoon. So what's this have to do with Joseph's note? If you want to debate the prophetic iteration of Israel, you cannot look at the character of the Israelites and say, well, based on how the Israelites or the Israelis live, they cannot have a covenant with God. Human beings cannot keep a covenant with God. That's why we need a Savior. We can't do it. All right? Throughout the Scriptures, God makes a covenant with himself. He has to keep the covenant himself. What does it mean to be the author and finisher of the faith? Right? You're the Alpha and Omega. You have to do the whole thing yourself. We're sinners. All right? So you have to actually look at the character of God. Does God keep covenant and make covenant with sinners and terrible people? Yeah, because there's only sinners and terrible people. That's all there is. There's only sinners and terrible people. There's not any other kind. God couldn't make a covenant with any other kind of person because there's no other kind outside of his grace. And the work and ministry of the Holy Spirit and the salvation of Jesus Christ at work in your life on a daily basis, that you are dying daily to that. You're working out your salvation with fear and trembling. And so a lot of times people look at all the paganism in Israel, and look at all the abortion and all the rainbow jihad. So that cannot be a prophetic iteration of Israel. I ask you, if you read the Old Testament, you know what they had throughout the Old Testament? A lot of pagan revelry, a lot of sexual dysfunction, they got to the point where in the temple prostitution, now there was male prostitutes for homosexual acts as well. All right? So they never had the character to be God's people, because it wasn't there. And in fact, if you claim that the covenant with the Jews is based on their character, you're actually falling into the same pit the Jews did. All right? It's not that they were special so they were chosen. It's that they were chosen so they're special. And every time they got it wrong is when they fell into sin and judgment. It's based on the character of God, not on the character of the Jewish people. Just like your salvation as a Christian is based on it's the finishing work of Christ, not the amount of good deeds in your moral scorecard. Otherwise, you hop up on that cross. Now, that is not to say that this is the prophetic iteration of Israel, or you have to agree with it. All I'm just saying is, if you're going to judge it based on that, judge it based on how God conducts covenant and his character as revealed in his word. We don't read the newspaper headlines and read the statistics and then project them onto the word of God. That's eisegesis. We look at the word of God and then we discern the statistics and what's in the newspaper on the blogs from there. Furthermore, no one was more critical of the Jewish people than God and his word. And then Jesus himself said, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how I've longed to gather you in as a hen gathers in her chicks, you who stone the prophets and kill those who God has sent. So of course criticism can be godly. And in often cases, it should be and is. So I like the premise that Joseph went by here. So I wanted to make sure to give it a note and give it some time here on a Feedback Friday. We'll continue from there when we return. Stay tuned. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. We are live from inside the Phoenix Convention Center at America Fest 2025 with Turning Point USA. I'm Steve Deace alongside Aaron McIntyre and Todd Erzin. You can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing us, steve@stevedeace.com, DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Please subscribe to our new YouTube channel, although YouTube probably will not count it. But if you love exercises in futility, if you're bored, if you love wasting your time, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Deace Show on YouTube. And I'm tired of YouTube wasting my time, so I will have more to say when the time comes next year on that matter. At Deace Show on YouTube. And then you can also, if you wouldn't mind, if you're a podcast listener, thankfully Apple doesn't hate us, which is shocking. But they don't. So they're great to us. So keep those 5-star reviews coming. Tens of thousands of you have left us 5-star reviews. We appreciate each and every one. You can also hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple iTunes, follow. And that way you'll know for sure that every time we do a new episode, it's right there for sure in your podcast feed. We can also tell you for sure how to get a good night's sleep. And it's with our friends over at Beam. They answered the age-old question. I know everybody here that is walking through the exhibit hall, listening, watching the show. I know. The question on all of your minds right now is, what would possibly stop Steve Deace from having to get up in the middle of the night to pee while he's trying to sleep? when we answered that question this year. See, I mean, look, I mean, everybody right now, show us your ways, correct?
Oh, yes, there's a cult forming in front of us as we speak.
I mean, how many times do you guys stop just your first day here? How did he do it? How did Steve make it all the way through a night of sleep without peeing? How many times do you guys get asked that? All the times?
Too many times.
I've tuned out here. What are we talking about?
I'm speed dialing my therapist.
Todd's
right
like,
now.
stop with the bodily fluids, go back to UFOs. All right. Anyway, we found the answer. Beam's Dream Powder. It's fantastic with science-backed ingredients that have proven to lead to the best night's sleep. It's a little hot cocoa. Don't worry, it's not loaded with carbs and sugar. Right? Little hot cocoa, lots of great flavors that you can take right before bed for the best night's sleep. And you've been waiting for the right time to try Dream. It's from Beam. It's a company that is proudly founded in America, shares your American values. Their Dream Powder will make sure that that you are having a dreamy night's sleep. All right, just use the code Steve right now at shopbeam.com/Steve. Take advantage of my exclusive offer for up to 40% off Beam's Dream Powder. And with that discount code, you get their best-selling Dream Powder for just $39. Think about it. That's $1.25 a night for a great night's sleep. Go to shopbeam.com/Steve. That's shopbeam.com/Steve. Hey, before we get to Feedback Friday, I had someone come to me recently, just a few days ago, that wanted to address the what's going on in college sports. And this is something we have discussed directly or indirectly on the show a ton.
A lot.
Some of it because all three of us have major college sports fandom in our backgrounds. It's certainly more prevalent for Aaron and me still than it is for Todd. But it also crosses over into the larger cultural economic conditions we're talking about. And then it's just personal to you, Todd, because you've got two young ladies right now at universities, one of them at a major university, that are scholarship or college level athletes playing in so-called Olympic sports. And obviously what happens at the top level with the sports that are funding all those Olympic sports, like football, is going to have a huge say in opportunities like this for student athletes like your daughters, right? And so some of the issues that are available right now in this conversation that people are talking about, we're interested in how much foreign investment we want in the larger American economy. Well, universities and conferences are now thinking about going to foreign private equity to pay the bills so they can continue to keep Olympic sports and pay these football and basketball players the exorbitant salaries and money that they now command on the open market. Is this going to lead to the loss of opportunities if that money's not there, for example? Are there going to be national rules? We can't get Congress to do stuff that would be in its own benefit on 80% issues. Can we get them to act here on a secondary issue? And because it's probably going to take some kind of antitrust exemption or some kind of special piece of legislation to rein this in to avoid foreign, private equity to be essentially become the sugar daddies of college sports. Are we peddling influence here? What are these NIL deals that kids are getting? And how many of these players really even know that this is all taxable income, right? Someone just comes to you and offers you 6-7 figures to play and cuts you that first down payment check. Do you know you need an accountant? Have you been educated and all that kind of stuff, right? So I got asked to discuss this on the show, and I thought, you know what? Instead, I'm going to send them over to you because you're the ombudsman. You're the conscience of the program, right? And I had them kind of run some of their ideas and what they were thinking by you just to see what you thought. So what do you think?
You laid out a lot of variables there, and that's right. As we just talked about with incentivizing birth rates, there's a lot of conversations that we can have to make what we are currently doing to college sports better, because that's like basically getting up in the morning is better, and doing nothing is better than everything everybody seems to be doing to try to destroy something good, true, and beautiful. But however many ways there are to skin this cat, the one thing I really like about what this conversation is bringing to the table, it is expressly pointing out that what we are doing is not just inconvenient. What we are doing to Olympic sports and women's sports, it's wrong. It's just flat out wrong. I have 4 daughters. I didn't need my daughters to be athletes to love them or anything like that. I'm not I was a mediocre high school athlete. My wife didn't play anything. I don't know how this happened. But they happen to be good at things, and it's important, and because they honor God with their gifts and their talents. So regarding this effort, I'm in because Ainsley and Tessa and Charlotte and Elise, their dreams are just as important as any college football player. And somebody else I just met, Stephanie, an 8th grader over there from South Carolina, her dreams are just as important as any college football player. She has dreams of running cross country, and she and her mom just came over and spoke with me earlier about, hey, could your daughters possibly help guide her through that? Absolutely, it would be my honor. So let me say one last time, and if you get in my way on this, you're going to lose and I'm going to win. The dreams of Stephanie running cross country in college are just as important as the college football players. That's it. End of sentence.
Listen, we had a really good thing going with college athletics, and it was all driven by football. And look at all of the things, all of the benefits, all of the fun things, but all of the dreams that were made true because of college sports. And we're really talking about college football because that was the engine, that was the mechanism that funded everything. Not only did we get some really fun Saturdays in the fall, we also were able to fund this system in the United States to make sure that we have the best athletes participating on the world stage. And I know, Steve, you're not a huge Olympics guy, but it's more than just that. It is what you learn about yourself as being an athlete. It's what you learn about being on a team. That's what you learn about being an athlete. And football has funded all of that. College athletics is funded by football, and college athletics has been a net positive, I believe, for our civilization for so long. And we're doing everything in our power to throw that all away.
Right.
To throw it all away. So what is next? We just had 2 conversations about this recently with the entertainment industry. When Saudi private equity is going to save us from the wokeness of the Obamas and Netflix. Okay, that's what we're going to start talking about with collegiate athletics as well. So limited government means limited government, not no government. And I used to fall for this canard, but I don't.
Limited to what's best for people.
What's best for people.
Yeah.
Yes, and I used to fall for this canard. You can't legislate morality. Nope, that's the only thing you legislate. And what's happening in college football right now, which is impacting all of the rest, all of the benefits of college athletics for our young people, what it's supposed to be for our young people, not just a paycheck. It's supposed to be character-building experiences, life-building experiences. What's going on in college football is immoral. And I don't fault anybody for wanting to make money off of their name, image, and likeness, or making money for playing this game, but that's not really what's going on right now. It is just a craven, opportunistic-driven system that it's going to implode, and we're doing everything in our power. It seems like the people who are supposed to be the adults in the room are doing everything in their power to make sure it crashes, but it need not be that way.
Well, to close this part of the show out, there's only a few options of how this ends. This ends with college football brought to you by the Saudi royal family.
Yep.
It ends with we have to create the largest, just another large labor union. All right. It ends with an antitrust exemption, or it ends with a piece of legislation like the Sports Broadcasting Act. And that's the Cody Campbell group and crowd and what they're up to and what they're trying to do. Those are your 4 options, and it's going to end in one of those 4 places. And I hope it goes to the place that provides the most opportunity for the most student athletes and preserves the most integrity of the game that we all loved and grew up cherishing at the exact same time. All right, this part of the show, as we get back to Feedback Friday, brought to you by our friends over at Birch Gold. There's a lot of politicians. They should be getting coal in their stockings this Christmas. But Birch Gold thinks as a smart planner, you deserve silver instead. That's why for every $5,000 that you purchase between now and December 22nd, Birch Gold is going to send you an ounce of silver, which is up over 60% this year. So smart people diversify, have a hedge. That's why we encourage you. Buy your gold from Birch Gold. And with the rate cuts from the Fed, your dollar might be even worth less next year. What happens if that AI bubble bursts, right? Make sure you're ready. Convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. And for every $5,000 that you buy, you'll get an ounce of silver in your stocking for you or for your kids. What a great way to teach them about investing smartly. Just get started by texting my name, Steve, to 989898. Claim your eligibility for this offer by texting Steve to the number 989898 today. Again, text Steve to 989898 today. But remember, this promotion ends on December the 22nd. All right, you guys ready for some more Feedback Friday?
You go.
All right, this one is from Marty Wilson, who says, I go all the way back to when you were substituting for Paul Harvey when you first started out. Wow. That's way back. That's over 20 years. All right. I'm submitting this idea to use as you wish, or maybe claim as your own. Not going to do that, Marty, because if it sucks, everybody's going to know it was you. All right. He says, I think Trump should address the nation in prime time and issue and sign preemptive pardons for Obama and Biden for their roles in the Russian collusion hoax scandal. And here are the reasons and benefits for my suggestion. Number one, they are effectively out of reach prosecutorially, even with overwhelming evidence of their participation. Pardons will effectively burden them with the presumption of guilt in the public's eyes and prevent them from claiming Fifth Amendment protections if called upon to testify against their co-conspirators. Trump could claim to be issuing the pardons to preserve the integrity of the office of the president, both past and future. Number two, by signing the pardons with the American people as witnesses, he could highlight the validity of the pardons in contrast to the invalid auto pen pardons issued by Biden staffers and undermine the credibility of J. 6th and that committee and Fauci and all those pardons. Number three, the assurance of pardons in a televised address to the nation would force the lamestream media hacks to cover the hoax as a scandalous conspiracy and give oxygen to it during an otherwise quiet news cycle. And so I'm sure I haven't thought of everything here, but I hope this stimulates you guys' political strategy brains, and that is why I think this would be a fruitful conclusion to what they tried to do against President Trump. What do you think?
If we are not going to have flag marches and arrests, then sure, I'm down with this. But that's not what we need. We need arrests. We need prosecutions. If somebody is truly guilty of something, they need to be prosecuted for it. If we're not going to get that from this Department of Justice for one reason or another, if we're not going to get that from this FBI for one reason or another, then this would probably be the next best thing. But it is not the best thing. It's a good idea if we're not going to get those. Marched arrests.
I also will allow it, but at the end of the day, that is as much theater as it is justice. And in order for it to be important theater, the kind of theater that is part of politics, persuasion, nobody knew that better than Charlie. You can't just, there need to be actual arrests before that to lead up to the gravity of doing that. If we don't have any other arrests of anybody else, but just do that, I would suggest not just doing that.
Let's go here to this one. Guys, I love, laugh, and lament with your show. And I appreciate you guys platforming both sides of the Zionist debate. I'm a pastor, and I've been pointing out for the last 4 years that the anti-Semitic labeling of those simply pointing out biblical and anecdotal facts is the exact same tactic used by the woke neocons. It's literally no different than the left woke racist labeling of those like Charlie Kirk, who said that there are some aspects with black subculture that has problems. This tactic's been employed to silence those who have earnest questions, complaints, and sharp disagreements against Zionism. Let's skip ahead because he gets into some of the Fuentes stuff that we've already discussed. He says, we can persuade the disenfranchised, we can't persuade the disenfranchised by canceling those who in part represent them, like Tucker. It is actually many conservative Zionists, like at the Babylon Bee, who dismiss people like William Wolfe, good friend of mine, Tucker Carlson, guy I've known for a while, Stephen Wolfe, who I met earlier this year, Brian Sauvé, who we've had on this show, Oron McIntyre, who I consider a friend and a colleague, Andrew Torba, I believe that's the guy who owns Gab.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know that I've met him, but I think that's the guy that owns Gab. Andy Isker, who literally grew up listening to my show. Joel Webbin, I just did his event earlier this year. Jeff Durbin, who we did an Evergreen with, I think, last year, right? Okay. Now, let me say, not all those guys are the same. And there's several guys on the list that would bristle at being put on the list with some of the other guys. All right, sure. So this is not one, homogenous blog here, glob, I should say. But to this emailer's point, there is a wide swath of people who have skepticisms theologically about Zionism that maybe are not as provocative in their language as a Joel Webbin, are not as creative, as Brian Sauvé and Haunted Cosmos, are not as academic, as Oron would be. So they're not. Don't paint, just like you don't want to be painted with a broad brush in any sect you're a part of. I wouldn't paint this group with a broad brush either. Fair?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Jason Whitlock, your colleague, gets free speech, and that necessitates the allowance of the presentation of meaning he gets the concept of free speech. And that allows for the presentation of the gospel, which I believe repudiates Judaism. I'm impervious to the illegit labels of racist, homophobe, anti-Semite, and will tactfully but boldly proclaim Christ regardless of label, policies, or even accusations from fellow brothers in Christ. He goes on to say, one cannot hold to both the old and new covenant. If one is holding to the old covenant, especially ignoring the curses of disobedience of Yahweh's covenant and only claiming the land as an entitlement, he misunderstands that the land has always belonged to God, as he is landlord, and they were tenants, and they were vomited out of the land due to their disobedience. Furthermore, the 1940s return to the land was by no means covenant-based, as Israel is still outside the covenant, both old and new. The old is obsolete because it is fulfilled by the new covenant via the blood of Christ. With great respect and love, Chris Hall. Now, this last paragraph of Chris's note is the most important. All right? And so I want to read this again because a lot of you have been, all right, some of you have turned dispensationalism into such a buzzword that even though I did years of shows skeptical of dispensationalism, I now feel like I have to defend it. All right? Replacement theology is a buzzword too. Okay? And I just think I want the argument to happen. I want the Ben Tucker argument to happen. I don't want it to happen at which should be a celebration of Charlie's life. There's 30,000 people here, many of whom could not go to the memorial. This is their opportunity to come here and give him, the legacy, thank you, and celebration of life that he deserves. But let me say this though: the things Tucker and Ben said last night, we need them to say those things, preferably to one another. All right, and in a setting where it can be more hashed out. We need to have these conversations, okay? And so for those of you that think that replacement theology is some new thing or it's just for anti-Semites, I want to read the last paragraph of Chris Hall's note again, okay? Because this is one of the best and simplest explanations of what it is that we've ever had submitted to us, all right? He says, one cannot hold to both the old and new covenants if one is holding to the old covenant, meaning the old Jewish law. Okay? Especially ignoring the curses of disobedience from Yahweh, which is, and he even uses the Hebrew spelling there, all right? Of Yahweh's covenant and only claiming the land as an entitlement, he misunderstands that the land has always belonged to God. He is the landlord. They were the tenants. They were vomited out of the land for their disobedience. So he is saying the end of the old covenant was announced with Christ's resurrection, confirmed by his ascension, and the era officially came to the end when Jerusalem was destroyed and the temple was destroyed, thus ending temple Judaism. The ability to now, therefore, since there's no temple, you cannot fully practice Judaism because there's no atonement for your sins. You are not practicing the sacrifices, the sacrificial system. And Todd's nodding because he absolutely understands sacraments, because you're a Catholic. The sacrament is done. You couldn't do it if you tried. You could not go and perform the sacrament that gave you the true atonement for your sins because that era has been fulfilled. God shut the door, the temple is gone. That's what he is saying, okay? Right? And that's why he believes that this iteration of Israel is not prophetic because they cannot fulfill their own covenant any longer. Now, I am not here to agree or disagree with this, but simply to explain there are very good theological reasons why people think the way Chris does. What you also need to understand is it's new to you, but the way Chris thinks is actually the way most of Christendom has thought for 1,500 years. Now, there are variances of opinion, all right? You guys would be considered in Rome like full-on replacement theology to the point that the church in Rome is the fulfillment of ancient Israel. It took the baton and passed it on through apostolic succession to the church in Rome, correct?
Yeah, Catholic it doesn't technically use replacement.
Right.
It's more, fulfillment is a more appropriate term, but yeah.
Correct. I would argue there's really no such thing as replacement theology. All right? You're really arguing, do you believe the church is the fulfillment of what Israel was meant to be, or do you still believe there's a prophetic role for Israel? That's really the debate. And terms like dispensationalist and replacement are largely... Listen, there was good reasons people came up with those terms, but in the current era, we've just turned them into buzzwords, and we're better off just taking a long road and explaining what we actually mean. Okay? Because the minute you use those buzzwords, people just turn off and just dismiss you or accept you on the basis of whether you use the right term or not and not what it means, right? And so I want people to understand there are legitimate reasons why people think this way. They're not automatically anti-Semites, all right? In fact, if we dismissed everybody in the history of the church that just said what Chris said, guys, we are going to clear the deck of a lot of the greatest minds in the history of Christianity. Now, though, this position is nuanced too. There's a lot of people that held the view that Chris just talked about, like Jonathan Edwards, maybe the greatest preacher in American history. Maybe no America without Jonathan Edwards. But Jonathan Edwards also believed that there might be a future nation, despite that where Jonathan Edwards would have stopped is at this last line. He would have said everything Chris just said, but would have also said, but I do think it's possible that there might be a future recongregation of a nation of Israel to fulfill Romans 9 through 11, and this is the last harvest of the Jewish people to Messiah before the end comes. So even within all these views, there are nuances. Within the names that were, I would guess Jeff Durbin, don't know Jeff very well, but just knowing what I know of Jeff, I think he'd bristle at being associated with Joel Webbin and Andrew Torba, would be my guess, okay? Andrew Torba and Joel Webbin might bristle at being associated with, Jeff Durbin in return. I don't know. You can't put all these people with a broad brush, but the inherent view they demonstrate is not unique, and it's not. And now are some people, and maybe even some people on this list, we may come to find out, just using some of these as to grow an engagement, or it's a fig leaf to cover the fact they're really anti-Semites. That's open for debate, and the jury is still out on some of the names on this list. Fair?
Yes.
All right? But the heart of what they're arguing against Zionism is not historical heresy. It may be cultural heresy to what we're used to hearing. But historically, it's not that much different than what the church has largely thought about this, with some variations and some diversions until really the last 150 years. Now, you look like you want to definitely chime in on this, so the floor is yours.
No, I mean, this is the crux, the gist of the conversation that we've had over and over and over again, especially in the last few months. And it's important that this conversation is had. It's just, I keep chuckling because we had Gary DeMar. I can't remember the ministry that he is with, but he would hold to this post or amillennial view of eschatology. And
he's a preterist, which means he thinks
correct
stuff was already fulfilled,
already taken place. And he was very hard on dispensationalism, which is what that's basically the air that evangelical America breathes in right now in terms of their eschatology, the study of the end times. And Todd, our resident Catholic, at the end of that program that we taped with Gary DeMar, made a comment about dispensationalism that I was sure was going to make a lot of people very, very angry with him. And that interview came and went, and I didn't really hear much of it.
There was a little, but not as much as might have been like 10 years ago.
Because these labels that we talk about are just never explored. There's a lot of things that are just taken for granted that have never really been opened up and explored and explained to most people, I believe, in the median church, at least median Protestant church in this country. So these conversations there needs to be a lot of grace, I think, for each other as well, regardless of which side of the spectrum you come on when it comes to pre, post, or dispensational.
I got a really thoughtful email or DM, I can't remember which one, about this, and I don't know why it was just directed to me. But it was talking about the nuance you're talking about. It said, I have lots of appreciation for both sides on the theological side of this debate, as well as the geopolitics. I like to talk about it. He said, what I really resent about this is that everybody is now suddenly locked in, and we're going to solve this right now. And he said, how did it get to be, and this is your point about, how is this not a celebration entirely, Charlie, and two guys going up there and having a pissing match that's about this issue? How did that happen? Why is it, Steve, to your point about a lot of things, how did it become this, and then space bar, and then all this other stuff that is existentially, in my estimation and most people's estimation, far more important in terms of the now, and if we put some elbow grease into it, more likely to be solved than this riddle that, as you just explained, it ain't going to happen tomorrow, guys. So why are we doing this? What's behind it? Maybe the guy sitting behind Representative Burchett in Tennessee knows, because this is just weird.
All we needed was the guy behind Burchett
Yes.
just sitting there smoking a cigarette, like the cigarette smoking man as he's talking to me.
This is weird and dumb. It's not unimportant. Why is it dialed up to 11 like it is right now, at the expense of so much else?
Here's the thing, all right? As someone that's been asked to officiate some of these debates, I'm going to do one of these debates with Doug Wilson, all right, on tomorrow, right here at America Fest. We're going to do this very conversation, this very debate. To me, there's only two rules, okay? If you don't, you're not not being a Zionist. Rule number one, not being a Zionist does not make you anti-Semitic. That's rule number one.
Yep.
Rule number two, all right? You have no excuse for being an anti-Semitic douchebag. Short of that, let's have the fight. Let's discuss it. Come now, let us reason together. Let's do this thing. Those are the only two ground rules, all right? Not being a Zionist does not automatically make you an anti-Semite, and you have no excuse, regardless of which side of this you're on, you have no excuse biblically for being an anti-Semitic douchebag. Those are the only two rules. And then after that, let's open the book up, let's walk through it, and see what the Word of God has to say. And then we take that and apply it to what we actually see happening in the world. I'm totally okay with that.
Amen.
I have no problem at all with anything. Well, I mean, there were elements of what were said last night I disagree with. But I have no problem at all with airing Tucker and Ben's views and then fighting about it. I just don't think, we're having Christmas here. You know what I'm saying? We're here for a holiday. It's for another way of saying a holy day. We're here to honor a fallen martyr. And this is his celebration of life at the event he literally gave his life for. And this just wasn't the occasion for it. That being said, we do need to be having the very conversations about the very stuff they did talk about last night. But those are the only two ground rules. You're not as anti-Semite because you don't believe in Zionism, but you don't get to be an anti-Semitic douchebag. That's it.
So easy, even.
And if you can't keep those two rules, then we kind of know whether you are a good faith person that maybe we vehemently disagree with, or this is you have a narrative you're pushing and there's something else going on here. Fair?
Exactly.
All right.
I think we solved it.
That's what we do here. Everybody says that about us. We unite people. We solve issues.
You are healed.
Back in a moment. All right, back here live on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Todd and Aaron McIntyre. Going to be joined by a special guest here in just a moment. But you guys know I was talking about that schedule, that rigid schedule. I do my best to try to keep it on the road. But TPUSA has me doing 4 events this week, and the second one was this morning at 8 a.m. And given how late our dinner went last night, I had to completely reschedule my workout schedule. So I did not get my normal stretch and everything in before getting here. Thankfully, though, I brought with me on the road the mini version of the rolling power massager from our good friends over at Chirp. So I got a chance to kind of iron out some of those trigger points, get stretched out, make sure that I didn't, because Todd, you and I are at the age, man, we can throw out our back, putting our pants on. That's the truth. And you about did that earlier this year, did you not?
I just book that into every day now.
I mean, that's where it's at. Thankfully, I could fit that thing into the bag, brought it with me. So I still got a good stretch in this morning. This is the kind of stuff, we're getting into the time of year where a lot of us are going to be like, all right, man, after what I just did, I am ashamed. There are numbers that I didn't think existed in modern mathematics that count up to the amount of calories I just consumed. And so we're getting into the time of year where you're going to get convicted to do something about that. Or maybe you want to just change your whole lifestyle around. As a guy that has done that, I can tell you, know the term trigger point. right? There's a lot of muscles, nerves, the kinds of things that have atrophied over the years. And those things will get up on you and stop you from making the right healthy changes in your lifestyle. And that's where preventative care from people like Chirp comes into play. So the Rolling Power Mini Massager, just one of the products they have. They do have trigger point rollers and rollouts galore, all kinds of stuff that you can get there because their mission is simple: to bring relief to as many people as possible with the kinds of techniques that you get in clinical treatments, but without all the expensive appointments and the time that you don't have to waste. Stuff like that mini power massager, you can take that with you on the road like I just did. All right, so here's what you need to do. Go to gochirp.com/Steve, CHIRP. gochirp.com/Steve. If you go there and order right there, you get free shipping site-wide on every order at gochirp.com, like Birdie Chirp. gochirp.com/Steve. Well, it only seems fitting as we close out our final segment here of 2 days broadcasting live from AmFest. And we've spent a lot of time, and because it serves the setting. Charlie spent a lot of his time talking about masculinity, the need to reach the young men, the need for men to rise up, lead, change the destiny of a nation. It only seems fitting, guys, that we would close this out with what I just think, man, if you look up in a picture in the dictionary, and I'm probably going to embarrass the hell out of Chris with what I'm about to say, but he's got it coming. If you looked up in the dictionary, man, and the old phrase, we don't use it a lot in our age anymore, but the old man phrase, a man's man. I'm telling you right now, the guy we have with us today, man, you guys want to argue about this?
No.
His mugshot is got to be somewhere on examples as follows, right? Billboard Chris is here with us, and my friend, it is truly a pleasure and an honor. And I mean, I just don't know how else to describe what you do, other than, bro, you're a total badass. I just don't know what else to say. I mean, that's just kind of what you are and what you do. So, why do you do what you do, and what led you to doing what you do?
Well, thank you for the kind words. I can't live up to all that. I'm just a guy out on the street having conversations. And I'm a dad of 2 girls, and for more than 5 years now, I've been on a mission to raise awareness about what I think is the greatest child abuse scandal in modern history. This practice of trying to change the sex of children with puberty-blocking drugs, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries. So I used to be a financial advisor, and I quit my job back in 2020 to raise awareness about this issue. Because we can't live in a world doing this to kids. We can't live in a world that doesn't know what a woman is. We can't live in a world trying to change the sex of children. And when you become a father, your life changes, of course, and it becomes about your kids and the legacy you leave for them. So I'm going to make sure that by the time I exit this world, I've at least started a movement that will continue to put a stop to this madness, because it's totally crazy and the most vulnerable kids in our society are being harmed.
And of course, during your travels, you've encountered that there really was an anxiousness to have an open, spirited, honest, and respectful debate. I'm sorry. No, that's probably not what you encountered, right? So give us some examples. What have you seen over the last 5 years? How many times have you been arrested? How many times have you been threatened? How many times have you been assaulted?
So I just want to preface this by saying most of the time I'm having great conversations with normal people, but I have had police called on me more than 300 times. I've been...
Hold on. Did you hear what he just said? Most of the time it's going great. 300 times, though, they've called the cops on me. 300! Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and most of those police agree with me, but I have been put in jail 3 times, including this year in Brussels, shortly after speaking at the European Parliament. I was out on the street having conversations, and we actually called the police because we were being so harassed. I was with a woman named Lois McClatchy-Miller. She's the spokesperson for ADF International, a wonderful Christian legal firm representing people when their rights are violated. And they helped me win a freedom of speech lawsuit against the Australian government earlier this year, but we called police and they decided that we had to take off our signs and leave, and I refused to do that because freedom of expression is supposed to be guaranteed across the European Union.
You were instigating your own threats, essentially, is what they were claiming.
Right, so we were put in jail, I was strip searched and all that. And that's fine. I'm taking legal action against 5 different Belgian authorities now. But I have been assaulted probably 40 times. I've had my arm broken by Antifa. I've had all sorts of adventures, but all that does is help elevate the message that I'm trying to get out there. And to be honest with you, the men who have a problem with me aren't the type I need to worry about physically, so I don't worry about it too much.
How many times of those 300 you've been arrested or had the cops call on you? How many times have the cops said to you, even if they are arresting you, Like, I really don't want to be doing this. I know you're right, but I'm just following orders here. How many times have you heard that?
Well, when they're arresting me, they don't say that.
Yeah.
But I have had police several times. Normally, they try to be neutral, but I was in Rhode Island, for example. The entire police force came out because there was this huge counter-protest. I was speaking at a library, and they were openly supportive of me. Same thing in San Luis Obispo. We had police from 3 different cities come out because that's a small town, and there was a huge protest. They were openly supportive. I had about 150 police come out in Boston when I had a protest there because they were worried a riot was going to break out. They stayed neutral, but I can tell they're all with me because these are mostly dads, a lot of moms too. Moms and dads know that our children are beautiful just as they are.
Mm-hmm.
Even people on the left, even though it's predominantly the left pushing this, the radical left, the far left 10%, those moms and dads know that their girls are girls and their boys are boys.
Yep.
And when you frame this message such as I just did, and when you say that there's no right or wrong way to be a girl and a boy, that if your boy likes to stay in the kitchen with his mom and bake with his mom, and perhaps if he's more sensitive, well, he's still a boy. And our tomboys are not actual boys. There's a term for them. They're called beautiful girls.
Mm-hmm.
And this ideology pushes stereotypes on our kids. And it says if you don't conform to these, what are really regressive and sexist stereotypes, that they must have been born in the wrong body. What a terrible message to send your child. They call this gender affirming care. The only thing it's affirming is self-hatred in vulnerable kids who have often been sexually abused, kids who have autism, kids who have other mental health problems going on, kids who've had hard lives. And now we're telling them they were born wrong and they need to change their body.
Or we're indulging the psychoses of the parents.
Correct.
Parents who just want to feel like, hey, I'm a totem of the spirit of the age. Yes, I participated. I didn't parent my child. I participated in, a childhood delusion, fantasy, or phase. Doesn't that make me one of the enlightened, cool, tolerant parents? How many parents have mutilated their kids just on that instinct alone, do you think, Chris?
Yeah, it's now popular among the people on the left, the people in Hollywood. It's popular for them to have a so-called trans kid. So this is like a cult that has infected our society. For all practical purposes, it has all the same hallmarks of a cult. We need to treat it like one. And we just need to reach the normies. We need to reach the people in the middle of the political spectrum and educate them about this. Because it's always been my philosophy, when enough people learn what's going on, some of them get activated in fighting this, and that's exactly what's happened. And today in the United States, more than any other country in the world, they're leading the charge. And just yesterday, the HHS held a huge press conference. We've got Dr. Oz, who's running the Center for Medicaid and Medicare now, actively speaking out against this.
Which is fascinating because before,
this.
That's right. I was just going to say. I mean, 10 years ago on his show, he was one of the first people pushing this stuff on his old Dr. Oz show.
That's right.
So,
and to speak to the parents, as you just mentioned, an older study even showed that 52% of the mothers of these children had themselves borderline personality disorder. So there's no truth to any of this. We don't have gender identities. We have personalities, and personalities don't require a sex change.
I think that how I've approached this as a Christian is we are unlocking latches on Pandora's box of the most innate, intimate part of what the human identity is, what it means to be made in the likeness and image of God. This is arithmetic that is beyond us as a species. We are not qualified, all right, to put our fallible hands upon such innate cosmic energy. And the cost of us meddling here has turned this island of Dr. Moreau that we've unleashed now onto the public. It's sad, but if you stop and think about it, when we meddle with people as if they're nothing but chemical agents, of course now, because we're dealing with forces beyond us, the consequences societally, the amount of violence committed by these people once they've been mutilated, ransacked, emotionally and physically violated, altered in some respects. We're living through it's not just what it's done to the individuals, we're now living through a high societal cost of this. I mean, the amount of trans shooters, we're here, of course, all right, at a glorified celebration of life wake, all right, because a guy that was struggling with gender identity and was dating a guy struggling with gender identity shot, our beloved friend in the throat. So there's a great individual and societal cost for entertaining this. That's why I think the whole thing ought to be criminalized, birth to death, and it's just completely exercised as any kind of legitimate science from henceforth.
It should be criminalized, and the House just passed a bill 2 days ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill, the Protect Childhood Innocence Act. She's had that bill for about 3 years, but no one wanted to look at it. So we've made progress. The House did pass it. 4 Republicans voted against it. They should all be primaried and kicked out of
completely morally
office.
disqualifying themselves, agreed. Yeah.
So now this goes to the Senate, and we have a problem in the Senate. Of course, none of the Democrats are going to vote for this because they are the party of child mutilation. But the Senate has power. The Republicans can kill the filibuster. which is what's standing in the way right now. And they should use their power and get rid of the filibuster. What's the point of having majority if you can't do anything that you want to do?
Correct.
As soon as the Democrats get power, they're going to use it.
Yep.
So do what you need to get done. The public overwhelmingly supports this. I get 90% support when I'm out on the street from people from all over the political spectrum. And this is the number one issue in the last presidential election affecting swing voters as well, more than the economy, more than immigration even. When you're talking to farmers in Idaho, what got President Trump the biggest applause was when he said he was going to stop the chemical castration of children and get men out of women's sports.
I thought the most effective message, you absolutely can applaud that. I thought the most effective message of the last election is when the Trump campaign said Kamala Harris is for they, them, and Trump is for you. I mean, I thought that defined the entire election. Well, listen, we share, and everybody here shares your heart on this. But the main reason that I wanted to have you on today is I wanted to hold you up as an example of what we are trying to encourage the men of this era to do and become and to act. And you probably don't get this enough, my friend, but I mean, thank you.
Yep.
I mean it sincerely from the bottom of I follow what you do every day. I see some of your stuff on social media at least once every day. Even the cause aside, the way that you have chosen, the modeling of redemptive suffering, the way you've chosen to follow it, it's truly inspirational. And I wanted to make sure we said in front of everybody watching and listening right now on Blaze TV, well done, good and faithful servant, man. So thank you. And I know Todd and Aaron, I'm sure you've got something you'd like to say to Chris as well before we get out of here.
Yeah, I long said on the show, 2018, 2019, as this stuff was brewing, once you believe in this stuff, you'll believe in anything. And there came COVID, because I think powers were watching how easily we could be suckered into absolute nonsense. And as shared with you privately, I had the cops called on me and my kids' school district cease and desist letters because I was doing the same thing you were doing. And the reason I think it fundamentally makes them so mad, and why you realized you were going to give up a career to fight it, ultimately, there's a lot of very important issues, but they are just kind of on an island. This issue is actually about every issue. This issue is about the nature of reality itself. And can we know it, and will we fight for it and defend it? Do you share that feeling? Because I think that's why you're so consistent in going out there every day.
Of course, this is one of the craziest things in the history of the human race.
Yes.
Trying to change
Amen.
the sex of children. It doesn't get much crazier than that. This is extraordinarily harmful. And when you look at the kids who show up to these gender clinics, it's kids who on average have 5 or more other mental health comorbidities. They've often been abused. A lot of these kids have autism. So now we're taking these confused, vulnerable kids and we're hurting them even more. But to your point about thanking me, I really appreciate that, Steve. I do get thanks enough, to be honest with you. But I just do have a message on that. If nobody thanked me, I wouldn't care. We have to stop caring about what people think about us.
Absolutely.
You know who you are.
Yep.
The only people whose opinions truly matter to me are my wife and my kids, and they know who I am. So if the rest of the world wants to lie about me, if the left-wing media wants to lie about me, it doesn't matter. Children are being destroyed. They're having their fertility taken away from them. The greatest thing in your life is having a family. And now we have all these young women, even who are getting gender-affirming hysterectomies at children's hospitals.
I know.
And we're afraid to talk about it?
Island of Dr. Moreau stuff, man. It's grotesque.
So we just need a little bit of courage, just a tiny bit, and just tell the truth and stop worrying about what people think about you, because the advantage of the truth is that the majority of people know it. And a lie might travel around the world in a day while the truth is still getting its pants on, but the truth gets there in the end. So just keep telling the truth and don't worry about what the haters say.
I got 2 minutes here. Aaron, you want to add to this? Because I want to make sure we also have time for Chris to give out any information of how people can support his efforts as well.
Just briefly, yes. Thank you again, Chris. And I think what I appreciate most about you is the model of persistence. And you talked about somebody talking to you about, I ran for school board or ran for council and lost, but I'm going to do it again. That's what it's going to take. When we reach a critical mass, and I don't think that critical mass needs to be that big, but when we reach a critical mass of men who decide once and for all that the cause is more important than their comfort, and they're going to keep going at it again and again and again, I can do this all day, Captain American style, that's when things are really going to change, and I think you'll be surprised how fast they change. So thank you for your persistence, Chris. Thank you again for what you do.
Amen.
Thank you. It is all about persistence. When I started this, I was getting 30 likes on a tweet. Now I'm getting about 1 billion impressions per year.
There you go.
So you just got to stay at it. That applies to anything in life. It applies to business. But to your point of how people can support me, I've started a nonprofit now in the United States of America. It's called the We Speak Truth Foundation. People can go to WeSpeakTruth.com and they can support me on there. But really, I just want them to learn about this issue and have conversations about it. Because one conversation at a time, we're going to stop this abuse.
Amen. Amen to every word. WeSpeakTruth.com is the website.
That's right.
WeSpeakTruth.com. Thank you again, brother. I mean it.
Thank you.
I mean, you are absolutely a modern day, just badass hero. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And do not hesitate. You got connected with us. If there's anything we can do, or anything I can personally do not ever hesitate to ping and ask me. All right?
Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Want to thank the crew here from Blaze TV, Stephen Smith and the engineering crew, making this happen, not just for our show, but the other shows here this week as well. This concludes our coverage of AmFest. We recorded Evergreen tomorrow that you're going to hear later on next year, but just wanted to thank everybody for making it possible. Everybody have a great weekend. Go hard. Romans 8:28.
This is Steve Deace.